What do you think the biggest misconception is about Aussies with money or Aussies and money problems?
Great question, Glenn. I think it's about ownership of what the money problem is. And, you know, it's easy to think too that those problems are solved by earning more, you know, taking on more work or working harder. And I think the difficulty with that is it sends people on this never-ending treadmill. And we always talk, you know, the permanent wage slave, if you like. And I see a lot of people trapped in that cycle.
Yeah. And like how you wrote the book, How to Stop Worrying About Money. Like it's all well and good for me to stop worrying about money now as a, you know, eat, pray, love vibe. But the practicals are I'm a slave to my job. I'm up to here in debt. I hate life. I'm all this stuff. I've got all this weird money stuff. Like how would you say that someone can unpluck their money chicken mess?
Yeah, I think the key thing is you do have to get a handle on it, and I think it's all about making choices. So think about what the trade-offs might be, and you've got to start somewhere. So, you know, my advice to people is just take that moment, find whatever the quiet time is in your week. Maybe it is a late Saturday morning, maybe it's Sunday. Get a cuppa, sit down, open up online banking, and just jot down. I refer to it as the, you know, open your front door costs. But I actually think at some point it starts there. I know that you and I have slightly different views on is it more income or is it, you know, closing your expenses down. But I think it's a balance between both and actually working out, just have a look at what you spent in the last month. Write it down on the back of an envelope or on a piece of paper or in a workbook. Write down every little cost that you've got going out the front door, because I think it's quite alarming, and what you and I both have experienced, I'm sure, and we know everyone has, this phenomenon of expense creep, you know, belts you right between the eyes. And before you blink, your Netflix subscription, your Bupa or your health insurance, whoever that might be, they've all jacked up quite considerably. And so you thought that your cost base was X, but when you sit down over that coffee, you start to realise, oh, actually, there's been quite a few substantial increases in that. So how do you actually fix that? And that's really the starting point.
I really like what you said about ownership, and I kind of talk maybe the same word, but I'm pretty much like, you know, if you rock up today and this is the first time you've listened to a money podcast and your life's a mess and all that stuff financially, absolutely, we have so much compassion, help, grace, tools, resources to get you up and going. But if you are listening to this podcast and you listen regularly and you hear Glen say, if you can't pay off your credit card every month and you pay 1 cent of interest, I'm sorry, you're overspending and you can't manage money. You have not actually taken ownership of your situation. So I think it is that process, isn't it? It's like, where are you at in your money journey?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's almost, I reckon as well, insert journey here. It could be your health journey, it could be your fitness journey, it could be your relationship journey, wherever it is. And I reckon, if I may rant a little bit, we can't outsource our problems to other things or people, particularly money problems.
Yeah. And actually, if I can just, I know a sense where you might be heading. One of the things I would say to you is I don't know where I'm heading. If I had $1 for every time someone rang me and said, I think I need a financial advisor, I can tell you, I say to them, before we take you down that $5,000 to $10,000 spend path, let's just have a conversation. And the thing that I find overwhelmingly common is that people don't actually know what their lifestyle is costing them for starters. So we're at the starting gate. Imagine you turn up to a financial advisor, the time that you have to spend, you know, working through a process to understand where people are at, just where they're at. We're not talking about the future at all. We're stuck here and now. So there is a big element of, as I say, getting your house in order, or I like to think of it as first understanding what it costs to open your front door.
Yeah. My verbiage is what it costs to wake up of a morning.
Yeah, that's yeah. Well, you're already in the house, in the bed. I'm at the front door saying, can you afford that place, right? Like, because that's something I see all too often is so much focus on having the right place in the right suburb, maybe with the right furniture, all those types of things, a bit like keeping up with the Joneses. And so the first question maybe is your lifestyle being right sized to your income? And sure, go get another job, earn more money, but is that something you might need to think about in the interim?
Yeah, and I reckon and this is why it's really hard to kind of do a broad-based podcast like this and even write money books, because someone might pick up your book, which we'll talk about. They might be in their early 40s, they're renting, they're well established, they've got all this stuff. It's really hard for them to like, chill out, Jacqui. I've got this happening here. Like, give me a break. Yeah. It's harder for them than someone in their early 20s just started with a grad career with only a phone bill and a bit of board at home to build their financial life. So it is tough and hard. And, I got an email I've got an Instagram and I will read it because it's just an amazing message that I got from a listener who, and we get this all the time, we want stuff overnight, but we actually have to put the time in, the effort and the sacrifice to make that change. And it's going to be longer and harder for some of us. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you think about our life's journey, at some point people decide to take responsibility financially. Some people take that step really late. In fact, I see it with people approaching 50. So it's rare probably to see someone at 20 having that focus, but actually people who are reflecting on a lifetime of being a spendthrift, for example, having credit cards, using Afterpay, all those types of things, and suddenly pulling up, one story I share is that classic one where someone's almost going to be homeless, in retirement because they've actually not saved and don't have any investments. So they're reliant on an income, and that's all fine until you get made redundant. And the brakes go on. So I guess the opportunity is there for everybody, though, to come back from that. And I've seen great turnaround stories, if you like, from people where they've perhaps been spendthrifts or haven't. Their money stories sort of tied up in a life of that. Their parents were similar, and they've continued down that path sort of, a bit hand to mouth until they've suddenly felt like, I've got to make a change here. And I've seen some people do some really good turnarounds.
Yeah, I say in my book, if you do have lots of credit card debt and personal loans and a money mess, and it's totally fine. We've all been there. I've been there myself. It's like I've tried everything dumb and I've done it 3 times. I think unless you are, that rock bottom and you are actually ready, I pretty much said in the chapter, stop reading this book now. I don't want you to clean up your mess only to get to the point where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm debt-free. Now I can afford a new personal loan for a holiday. Just stop. Yeah.
And I think similarly for me, going through divorce caused that rock bottom moment. And I had a couple of, 3 young kids and financial commitments, and starting from all I had was a great career. I shouldn't say all I had, but I had a great career, and I was basically it's ground zero. And I think what that taught me was, in a good way, how to start again. But it was a genuine opportunity to reset. So in terms of those goals, and that's something we probably should chat a little bit about today, because I do think it's critical, is that whole goal setting. And I like to think, if I said to somebody, can you set a money goal? Everyone's running out the door, right? They can't think of anything worse. But if say, no, let's think about a life goal. And that might be a sabbatical. You might decide you want to go overseas for 3 months and hand money off to somebody. How do you plan for that? That can be really exciting. And that's when you say, okay, well, here are the steps. You might need to hire somebody. You might need to lease space to somebody, all sorts of things. Or if you're in a corporate job, you might need to find somebody who can do that work while you're away. But what underpins it is, how do you manage the money side of it? And so what costs might you not have in that situation? Or do you need to start a side hustle to supplement your income to get you there? But these are all nice things. But I think when we're focused on the other goal, it's so much more fun than, Jacqui said, I can't have takeaway coffees for the rest of my life because I want to have 3 months off work. Yeah, there's another way of looking at it. And it can be, it can put, some energy in your boots, I think, when you've got goals set like that.
Hey, it's Glen here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money, Money, Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.